I have some budget DIYs for your bedroom coming right up. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Hermione and I like to show you how you can craft your best life on a budget. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing some DIYs with you from my local dollar store kind of place, which is Poundland. Now, if you don't live in the UK, Poundland is basically just where everything costs £1. Actually, no. Some things cost more than £1 nowadays, but that's a sore subject. I'm not going to go into it. Anyway, it's basically like a dollar store. So I've come up with some DIYs based on some bits that I found there recently. And I've come up with ideas that I think you'd be able to recreate even if you don't have a Poundland nearby. Just items that you can probably thrift or you can find in any discount store and you can kind of upcycle them. So I'm going to jump right in and show you the DIY projects. The first thing I'm going to show you how I made is this adorable little hanging shelf, and it's so simple and easy to make. I found the items for it in the Valentine's Day section, but they often have loads of wooden pieces in the home decor section that you can use for this project as well. So let's jump right in and I'll show you how I made this. So these are the wooden Scrabble letters that I used for this project. They came with 4 letters and a board to hold them in place. For this project we are using 2 of the boards, so you will need 2 packets, or instead you could just use 2 plain pieces of wood. I started by peeling the stickers off the wooden pieces so that they were nice and flat. I then flipped both of them over to the smooth side so that I could assemble them together. This will become the top of the shelf. I'm using a line of hot glue along the side of one of the pieces to push it into the other piece. You can use any type of strong glue that you might have lying around, but just remember that this shelf will be quite delicate, so you don't want to use it for holding anything too heavy. Next, you'll need to drill some holes for the rope to go through, so I drilled 4 holes, 2 on either end, and then once I was finished with that, I dusted them off and I was ready to string the rope through. For the rope, I'm just using rope that I got from the range for £1 in their craft aisle. I cut this in half and then I very carefully pushed it through the holes, and you'll want to make sure to close these off at the end so they don't fall through the holes. So I'm using some really large beads that I already had in my craft hoard, but you could just tie them in a knot, or you can use anything lying around that you might have, old beads from a necklace or something like that. Once you've done that, tie a knot, make sure it's really secure. And remember to make sure that the rope on both sides of the shelf is the same length so that it won't be wonky when you hang it up. For a little extra detail, I pulled apart the threads on the rope to make them look a little bit fluffier, and then I was finished with my shelf. So I took it away and I hung it up using some strong command hooks. You can hang this from a ceiling. I hung this on a shelf I already had so that you could actually see it in good lighting. But this is how it turned out, and I think it's actually super cute for a Poundland project. So I had loads of those wooden pieces left from the love sign that I used in the previous project, and I decided to put them to good use. I really needed a file folder organizer for my desk, so I decided to make one, and it was super simple. And if you don't have access to any of these things, you could always use wood or cardboard or even coasters that you might find in your local discount store. So if you want to see how I made this, let's jump right in. So I started by taking the 4 letters that I had left over and I flipped one of them so the letter was on the bottom. I then used my hot glue gun to trace along the bottom edge of one of the letters, and I stood this up in the very middle of the one I'd placed down. I ensured that this was fully dry, and then I went ahead and used the glue to adhere the second letter right at the very front of the piece. I held this in place so that it could dry as well, and then I moved on to the last letter, which is at the back. It's very simple, but this will become the base for your file folder holder. Once this was completely dry, I painted it in a couple of coats of a very pale grey chalk paint, and I left that to dry once again. You could use any kind of paint or even contact paper to cover this if you prefer, but I think spray paint would actually be the most suitable option because it's nice and fast and it dries quickly. I left the paint dry overnight, and then when it was dry, it was ready to place on my desk and I could put all of my files in it. It's a very simple system, but it's just a nice way to display your files on your desk and have easy access to them. Also, in the Valentine's Day section, I found these trinket boxes that had quotes on them. I wasn't super keen on the style, but I knew that I could make something a little bit more modern looking out of one of those. So I picked one up and I turned it into this. It is very simple to make, but it makes such a difference to this piece. So I'm going to show you how I did it. So this is what the box looks like up close. It's got a really great structure. I'm not too keen on the quote, so I'm gonna cover it up with paint. I decided to paint just the lid and leave the wood on the bottom. So I started by painting it with the same light grey chalk paint from the previous project, but I decided that it just kind of looked a little bit boring with the wood. So after that was dried, I did go in and I painted it with a really nice bright teal blue colour. I painted about 4 layers maybe to make sure it was completely covered. You could also use spray paint for this project too if you felt like that would work better. And then once the paint was dry, I cut a small piece of faux leather upholstery fabric in a creamy white colour. This is going to make the small handle detail at the front of the box to help you lift the lid. So I folded it in half and trimmed it down to the size that I wanted it. And then to adhere this to the front of the box, I'm just using a push pin. Very simply, just pushing that into the front at the very top of the lid. And this is how it turned out. I really love that it's kind of got a mid-century modern kind of vibe to it. It is a simple project, but it's just to show you that you can really find anything in your local discount store and then make it look like something really unique and pretty modern. While I was in Poundland, I picked up a cake board and I was like, I have to use this for something. What kind of wall art piece could I make with this? I thought about a mirror, but it wasn't reflective enough. So I just decided to go old school and make a pin board. I really need one of these in my bedroom, so I thought I would show you how to make a modern looking round pin board. So let me show you how I did it. So this is the cake board. It's pretty simple. If you don't have one of these to hand or you can't find one, you could probably just cut this out of cork or some thick cardboard if you would like instead. So to cover the pin board, I'm using this fabric that I picked up in IKEA recently because I love the print. You can find fabric items in Poundland like tea towels and tablecloths, but I've used so many of those for my recent projects that I feel like I'd be repeating myself. So this I already had lying around. I decided to use it, but you can use whatever you'd like. To adhere it, all I'm doing is literally just using some hot glue on the back and pulling the fabric over. The trick to making sure you don't get any wrinkles or lines on your circle is to start on one side, pull the fabric and glue it in place, and then go directly to the opposite side and do the same thing. I then turned it 90 degrees and did the same thing to the other sides. Once that was done, I had 4 corners, well, not really corners as it's a circle, but 4 points in place so that I could then start gluing around the circle between each point. Once you're happy with it and the glue is dried, go ahead and cut off any excess material so that you don't have it bunching up when you want to hang this on the wall. You should have something that looks a little bit like this, and then you can go and hang it on your wall using either command strips or blue tack, and all there is left to do is to decorate it with any pictures, postcards or memories that you'd like. So that's everything for today's video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it and that it inspired you to look in unusual places like your local discount store to find cheap, inexpensive items that you can DIY and make look really unique in your room. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great week and I'll see you next time. Bye!